Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. My name is Kelsey, and I'm with the state office right in Portland. And we are joined today by the lovely Corey Zimmer from the WanderWeb, who will be facilitating today's session on blogging for your small business. And so we're going to be going over a lot of technical information. I'm not sure exactly what that means. And so we will learn together what it takes to put together a blog. I see there's some people who have joined from yesterday and several of the other marketing sessions we've had. So welcome back. If this is your first time joining, welcome to you as well. We generally utilize the chat for all of our communication. So if you have any questions along the way, plug it in there, but also feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know what industry you're in, or if you have a business, feel free. If you already have a blog, feel free to share that with us. And then also feel free to network with each other. This is a great opportunity to meet small business owners and share, commiserate, so to speak. After today's session, you will receive a follow-up email from me that will include a link to the recording of today's session, as well as the slides from the presentation and all of our contact information. So if you are not familiar, we are the Maine Small Business Development Centers, and we are here to help small businesses with anything you could possibly need. So our business advisors are available at no cost. They're confidential. They're here to answer any question or help review files or tell you if your blog is good. Whatever it is you may need, we are here to help. So all of that contact information will be in the email as well. I think that's all the information I wanted to share with you to get started. I will warn you all, I have a little bit of construction going on outside, so I'm going to try and stay muted as much as possible, but I apologize for any machinery that pops through. So instead, I will pass the mic over to Corey, who will take over.
The virtual mic. Good morning, afternoon, actually, everybody. My name is Corey Zimmerman, and I am a specialty small business advisor. I work with SBDC clients on their digital marketing needs. I also own my own web design business, and what makes my business a little bit different is we combine business strategy with web design to make sure that what our clients are doing are the smartest things for their business. And so we really start with your goals in mind, and we reverse engineer a process to get you there. And I'll talk at the end about how you can get yourself a specialty advisor or reach out to us directly if you have any questions. So today we're talking about blogging, and the first thing I just wanted to cover is what is a blog? So how is a blog different from a website? A blog is just a type of website, but the difference is that a website is static and organized in pages, and you don't necessarily update your content all the time, whereas a blog is really dynamic and it's updated regularly with blog posts. And examples might include a food blog where you're sharing meal recipes, or a company writing about their industry news and sharing that in post or article type format. So there are lots of benefits to a blog. Drawbacks to blogging are it's time consuming. It can, anytime that you're doing anything for your business, it does take time. But the benefits are that every time you create and publish a post, it's another opportunity for you to show up on search engines like Google, and therefore drive traffic to your website. And obviously, anytime you're sharing knowledge or expertise with a blog, your business becomes more credible, you become more credible, and it improves your know, like, and trust factor, while also distinguishing you from your competitors and what sets you aside and makes you a little bit different. Each post that you make is an opportunity also to get new leads or new customers or clients, and it's pretty straightforward the way that works. is you just basically put a call to action at the bottom or throughout your blog, or at a minimum, just invite people to subscribe to your email list. So today we're going to talk about techniques around blogging, how to know what to write, things like that. This is not going to be a breakdown of how to create a blog as far as design a website, but once you have that set up, this is a plug and play formula for how to create a blog that your customers will be really excited about getting and look forward to receiving. Throughout the chat, like Chelsea said, please drop any questions that you have. And at the end of the session, we'll have some time for Q&A. And I'll be really happy to answer any questions that you have. And if I don't have the answer, we can figure that out from there. I bet you I will though. So is everybody ready to learn how to blog? All right, drop yes in the chat if you're ready. Awesome. All right, so blogging. You might have some questions about it. So these are things that I commonly hear about creating blogs. What is a blog going to do for my business? Is it hard to blog? What do I write about? How will people find my blog? And is it even worth the time? So if any of those questions are something that's crossed your mind, or you've wondered about how a blog will work for your business, then you are in the right place today. We're going to cover all of that information. So the beginning of all of this is we're going to talk about how to find topics, because it's probably the most common thing I get asked as a digital marketing strategist is, how do I know what to write about? And I don't mean me, I mean you asking the question. Okay, so there are lots of ways to find topics for your blog. And I'm going to tell you about my favorite ways right now, the easiest ways. So the first is to make sure that your topics are relevant and have demand that your audience will want to receive, is using your audience's words or your customers' words, because it's about them, it's not about you, right? So if you're delivering content, the content is delivered for them, not for you. So the best thing I could say is ask your existing audience. And here's some ways that you can do that. So social media posts where you do polls or asking questions, or look for engagement on existing social media content that you've posted to see what your clients, customers, etc. are discussing or commenting on. Surveys are great as well. So you can send surveys through social media asking very specific questions. So for example, a poorly asked question with what are you struggling with? A strong question might be, how many emails have you sent in the past week to your customers, right? So that might be a more specific email. The more vague you are, the less likely you are to get a response, because you're asking your customers to think, right? And so they're just going to think, I'm just going to scroll on and worry about that later, but later never comes. So be really specific about the questions that you ask. You can also use Google Forms to send out surveys, and Google Forms are free, and it's a great way to survey your customer base. And then just when you're meeting with your customers, do a little discovery session with them. You can ask them some questions, or if they say something, I like to keep a little notepad with me, and I just write down things that clients or customers say to me so that I'm using their words as much as possible. One of my favorite places to find things that your customers or my customers would be looking for are in free Facebook groups. So if you were to join a Facebook group for someone that is in your industry or works with clients that are your ideal client type, If you were to join that Facebook and just look at the comments and the threads and information that's in those groups, you'll be able to really get some good ideas about what your ideal customer is asking and commenting about. Another tool is on Amazon. So say, for example, you have a business where let's go back to the recipe thing. So say you are a specialty consultant or coach for paleo diet, right? I'm just throwing out examples, or a specific essential oil or health problem. If you were on Amazon, you could Google your specialty, like paleo diet, and then I would just follow it with books. So paleo diet books, and look for books that have a lot of reviews associated with them. And then just sort of field the reviews to see what people are commenting about or discussing in the reviews, and maybe answer some of the common things that come up in your blog. The other way that you could find topics are on Google. So if you were to type in your topic and just see what comes up. And I have a special little trick that I use, and I'm actually going to pull up a tab here and show you. So for example, in Google, say you are a paleo diet coach. So you're going to see what performs well in your industry by looking at the responses, because Google will give responses that it thinks that people want to receive. Note that these are ads at the beginning. But if you scroll down, you'll start to see the organic traffic, some of the questions that people also ask. So maybe as a blog, you could say, is a paleo diet unhealthy? Or is paleo good for athletes? I always try to keep positive. All right, so you've got lots of options here to find content ideas or inspiration. And then also, my favorite thing to do is scroll right down to the bottom, and under related searches, you'll also see what people that search for paleo diet coach also searched for. So you could have a freebie that you created to add people to your email list with a week of paleo diet meals in 4 hours, you know, or the top 10 paleo diet snacks, right? So those are things that you could do for your blog. Just examples. So there's thousands of different ideas that you could come up with very quickly. So what you would do is just sort of weed through those, pick the ones that are easy for you that also meet your keyword needs. And we'll talk a little bit about keywords in a future slide. Don't forget to use the chat if you have any questions. So another thing that I hear a lot is, I'm not comfortable writing, or I'm not confident with my writing style. And what I would say is this: you are not submitting a paper. So we're no longer in university. We are providing customers with resources and information. So in almost every situation, conversational style is preferred over a more formal writing style. There are some very specific exceptions for very specific brands, like a heavily corporate brand, right? But it is the rare exception where conversational style isn't where it's at. So just like you have a mood board for your business, like you would have a color palette or a logo that you use, you should also have a voice board, or a brand voice sound, right? That your voice sounds like. And that could be things that you normally would say, or ways that you structure your sentence. So in order to find your brand voice, it consists of a few things, but your brand voice is how you set yourself apart from the pack, right? So your brand voice consists of a few things. It consists of your personality, how quickly you speak or slowly, or as far as cadence, that could be how long your sentences are. Are they run-on sentences, or are they short? Are you precise, or are you eloquent? Are you formal, or are you bohemian, right? So how are the ways that you communicate with people? So the words and the stories that you use in your vocabulary count too. So the ways that you could find out your sort of voice, and it's important you do this because when you're working as in your business and then you're working with people, right? So you're creating content in the back and then people meet you. You want those to match up, right? So for example, in my business, I've chosen really bright colors because it would be surprising to clients that work with me if when they met me, you would expect me to be bubbly, you know, effervescent and positive, right? It would be surprising if you went from this and you met me and I was very robotic and you know, quiet and incredibly reserved. These are colors that represent my brand. My voice and the things that I say represent my brand. So words that might come to mind that I would use regularly are awesome, or I don't know, confetti, you know, like I'm throwing confetti at you or things like that. Those would be things that I would say in my brand. Like I'm so excited I'm over here throwing confetti, right? So think about what that means for your brand. So what your personality, look through your emails. How do you greet people? How do you write? How do you sign off in your emails? How do you say hey to someone when you see them on the street? Like, do you say what's happening or do you say hello, right? So use those things. What adjectives do you frequently use? And what adjectives would you use to describe your brand? So I'll start you thinking, so for example, you might be casual, you might be formal, you might be classic, you might be funny. Like, what are the words that people would describe your brand as? And then you really want to go back and look at your content to make sure that it aligns with your brand voice and your personality. So, and then you think about your cadence. So do you speak in, like I said, really long sentences, or do you have a tendency to use little jokes? Do you have a tendency to use short, jabby quips, right? Or do you have a tendency to really, really elaborate upon something and really dig deep into a topic? So look at your typical sentence length and punctuation marks. So they should be pretty consistent across your brand. And then obviously, for your vocabulary, you might have certain packages or processes or even products that have specific names associated with your brand. So don't be afraid to throw capitals on something and make it your own, or make up your own, combine a word and make it your word, right, that you use for your brand. So one of the things that I like to recommend is a swipe file. And if you haven't heard of a swipe file, I encourage every single one of you to add an email file for swipe content. And that would be anything that you think is really cool. You can either swipe it into that file from your email to save it, or email it to yourself and then pull it into that file. So you can go back and look for brand inspiration. And you could also add like little words or sayings that you use a lot. I keep one, the Notes app on my phone, and I just have a running list of, you know, if I'm reading a book and I think something's really funny or it sounds on brand, I'll just add it. And sometimes when I'm looking for a little bit of extra zhuzh in my writing, I'll just look through my list of things that I found and that I kept, and I'll add a couple in just to add some personality. Some of them are pretty silly. Some of them are pretty morbid because, you know, whatever, but that's my brand, right? I like to joke around a lot with my content and make it very light and funny while delivering good information. So I'm just giving you examples. We're going to talk about, again, a lot of things today. Please don't feel surprised if you're overwhelmed with the amount of information that I'm sharing with you, because there's going to be a ton of information. What I will say is at the end of this, Kelsey will be sharing all of the slides with you and all of the links that I'm sharing with you, okay? So don't feel like you need to write everything down. Don't feel like you need to remember everything, because the tools that we'll be providing today will be a reference tool for you moving forward, okay? This will be something that you can go back to over and over and over again and save the links to your favorites as you need them or use them. So like I said, just sort of absorb the content and the logic and the strategy of what we're talking about today, and just know that you're going to have all of these links and things provided for you. And thank you for that, Kelsey, in advance. You're awesome. Okay, so yes, how to create content your audience actually reads. So we're going to really dig into this because what I see online, there's a couple things that I see, and this isn't even in the script, but I need to add it. So a lot of people will squish their content all together really tight. And what I would encourage you to do is open that up. Lots of white space. You really need to give people a place to rest their eyes. But let's go back. So let's talk about copywriting. And by copywriting, what I mean is the copywriting with the W, not the R. So we're not talking about making things legal. We're talking about writing sales content for your business, copywriting. And it is probably the most important thing that you need to know in marketing for your business is copywriting. So copywriting or sales writing is really different than what you learned in school, okay? So for example, spelling, incredibly important. Your spelling should always be perfect, but your grammar, it doesn't necessarily need to be a focus. Your sentences can be choppy, they can be cut in half. You can capitalize things that shouldn't be capitalized. You can bold things that shouldn't be bold. Take all of those rules of writing papers and throw them out the window. Get rid of them. They're not going to help you in copywriting, okay? What you really need to be is engaging. So, like I said, correct spelling always matters, right? But miscellaneous things like parentheses, italics, bold, writing in fragments, those are all welcomed in conversational copy style in copywriting, okay? You can even go hog wild and end a sentence with a preposition, like go nuts, all right? Use contractions whenever possible so that you don't sound like a robot. And I'm going to give you a trick to prevent you, a fail-proof trick at the end of this slide that will 100% of the time prevent you from sounding like a robot. Okay. We're also going to focus on readability because when people look at content online, they read down, not across, okay? So humans, when they're reading online, read by scanning. First, they scan and they look at headings, bullets, bold, and they look for white space. So avoid blocks of text and keep your paragraphs to 2 to 3 sentences. Normally, you would write a very long a long paragraph, but for copywriting purposes, you're looking at just a couple sentences, 3, and if you're really feeling crazy, 4 maximum. But you have to have a really good reason to have 4 sentences in a paragraph when you're doing copywriting. Avoid compound sentences, like sentences that run on with lots of commas and punctuation. You're better off writing short sentences with good transition words. And transition words are similar to but, because, and, right? I would caution you to, sometimes people will say therefore. If that's your brand, that's absolutely, but it immediately will make you sound stuffy, right? So use those simple transition words. Keep your sentences short and sweet, strong and impactful, and take out all of the superfluous language. There, THEIR, if that's in there, you know that you need to go through your content and cut it because there's really not a lot of reason to have words like that. Those descriptor words in, I don't know if they're descriptor words, but they're them, these, right? So all of those can go. And we've talked a little bit about special effects. So things that you'd say maybe under your breath or as a joke, put them in parentheses. If you would emphasize something, use a bold or italics for it. If it's a place where you would naturally have a pause in the sentence, break the sentence onto the next line. And just make sure you're yourself. Okay, so again, this is not an academic essay. This is real life. Write like you talk. Your personality is in the details. So if you literally, when someone says something every single time you sigh, put that in parentheses or put like little stars around it, right? Or Or if you roll your eyes, you could do like insert eye roll, you know, just as a joke, or a little emoji or something, if an emoji is your brand. Now, these would be your brand things. There may be things that are very specific to your client type that would be specific. Like for food, you might want to say Yummo or something, right? That might be a sort of a go-to thing like it is for Rachel Ray. So here is my go-to tip to make sure that you don't sound like a robot and that your content is conversational. Is anytime you're going to post something, send it out in an email or a blog, I want you to read it out loud. And when you're reading your content out loud, if you emphasize something when you're speaking, that's a bold, that's in italics. If you would mutter something, put it in parentheses. If you naturally pause, that is a line break, okay? And then remember to keep it going down and not across that content. And I'll show you a really good example. I'll show you a before and after. So this is the before. This is a piece of content that we wrote for a business that we work with. And so what I would ask you is, if you were looking at this on a website, would you take the time to read it, right? So let me tell you the things that could be done better here. So the lines are really wide. Okay, so it's going to take a lot of eye movement in order to read these. And that will cause eye fatigue. All right. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but after you've been reading online for a few minutes, your eyes will get tired and you're just going to exit out because you need to move on. So the lines are wide. They're not justified left. So when you're reading, you automatically go ding over to the left, right? But because these aren't justified left, you're constantly working to find that. So I see a lot of people centering blocks of content. All right. Probably not ideal for if you want people to read things. Okay. So now we're going to look at the after. Everybody ready? Okay. So this is the way that we formatted that content. So this is a picture of David who's telling the story. Here's David. All right. He's the owner of Whitney Wreath up in Machias, Maine. All right. And this is his story. This is who he is. And you can literally read this content by reading a couple things and know exactly what it's about, and if you want to continue to read it. So do you see you can skim down pretty easily and get the idea of the content, and then decide if you really want to dig in and hear and read David's story. So I would challenge you to look at the difference here and really think about how you can space your content out and be mindful about using your bold and your italics and your fonts to really make your writing flow well. So I've also included a picture of David looking right into the camera. So he's looking at you because he's telling his story. Now, if we were doing that call to action that we talked about, where I wanted someone to apply to be on my email list or to get a consultation with me, I probably would have David looking over at the call to action. So say this was a button that I could click on to have somebody do something, I probably would have David gazing towards that so that it would draw the eye in that direction. Okay, so those are just little tricks around copywriting and formatting to make things warm and engaging and flow well. Eye movement and eye mapping is incredibly important when it comes to online content. Okay, now we're just going to touch a little bit on search engine optimization. And again, I'm going to go back and just say, there's a lot of content that we're discussing here. Some of it is overwhelming. Just know that I'm telling you the information that you need to know. You can always go back to this content and use it as a resource guide. This is a guide for you, okay? So we're going to talk about how we get found on Google. So the best way is using your keywords, headlines, and titles, all right? And I always keep this in mind when working with clients because search engine optimization, or the way Google or Bing or whatever shows things on their search engine, their whole goal is to give things to people that are searching that they want to read and look at. All right. So whenever you're thinking about what you're delivering to clients, you really need to think about how appealing it is for them. And the way you do that is with keywords, and we'll talk about keywords. Headlines have to be compelling, and your titles have to have your keywords in them as well. So keywords are words that are uniquely associated with your business that people might put in a search engine, all right, into Google. So for instance, say you are a soap maker. So keywords for your business would be things like soap. If you make local, like fancy soap, it could be artisan soap, locally made artisan soap, clean, fresh, moisturizing, natural. Those would be words that would be associated with your brand that you might want to use frequently, right? So those are brand keywords. And now let's get into phrases. So most people don't just type one word into Google, right? They'll type in a phrase. So they might say, where can I, or buy organic goat milk soap, right? Or moisturizing lavender soap. So those will be things, those would be your long tail key phrases that you could use in your blogging and your writing, okay? So make sure that you understand your keywords and associated key phrases and use them as often as possible. And when you're putting them into your blog, you want to use them in your headlines and your subheadlines. And by that, when you're on the, I call it the back end of your blog, when you're actually putting it in, you'll be able to tag them with like H1, H2, H3. And if you don't know what I mean by that, and you probably don't, and that's okay, we have small business advisors that specialize in digital marketing that can actually show you what we mean in the back end of your website. Okay, so just reach out to your advisor and ask them to get you set up with one of the specialty advisors. So we're not going to get too into this, but I'm going to show you a couple tools around keyword finding. So here is the one that I mentioned at the beginning is LSI Graph. So let's say we're looking for artesian soap. Is that how it's pronounced? Is that how it's spelled? I don't think it is. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's find that. Okay, so that's not lavender. This is why spell check is important, people. All right. It's just going to take a bit because we're zooming. Okay, so this link that I gave you for LSI Graph, which is free, by the way, gives you keywords. So you would type in what you think is a keyword, and it would give you what people are searching for and how frequently they're searching for them. And if you're looking for Google Ads, there's some content around the cost of it, but that's a different topic for a different day. So these are words associated with lavender soap and how many clicks they get per day. So if you're just starting out, usually what I recommend are you go after those keywords that aren't as popular, or short tail key phrases or long tail key phrases that aren't as popular. So I probably wouldn't go making lavender bar soap my core keyword, because I'm never going to pop to the top of the search engine as a beginner, right? I might go towards, let's see, lavender soap ingredients and see what comes up for that. Lavender soap benefits, you see there's less, I know it says lemon, but there's an opportunity there because those are less used, right? So you might want to look at the ones that are less used. And I usually will go 50 or under, okay? The other things you can look at are top performing content on the internet for the topic that you typed in. So these are great ways to look for inspiration and also see how those businesses that are doing well have leveraged their keywords and other words that they use, and if they would be appropriate for you. This is just how you do your keyword research. And what I recommend is everything that you do, especially around blogging, should definitely have a strategy. And so sometimes people write things just for fun, and I think that's great. But then you have a hobby and not a business, right? So if you're going to create a piece of content, the best thing to do would be make sure that you're optimizing it to have a way that will bring clients further into your business. All right. So we talked about keywords a little bit, and now we're going to talk about titles, because the title of your blog is probably the most important piece. Your job with your title is to get people to read the first line of your blog. Your first line of your blog is to get people to read the second line of the blog. Your second line of the blog is to get people to read the next section. Your whole goal is just to keep people reading, okay? So your title is incredibly important. So with that in mind, this is a title generator that I like to use because coming up with a title can be exhausting. So I'm just going to type in lavender soap. Spelled it right that time. Okay. And it's a noun, so we're good. Okay, so let's submit that. And what we're going to receive here are just dozens and dozens of names for blogs. Okay, so for example, apply these 10 secret techniques to improve your lavender soap. Not perfect, but you could go through and really look. There's hundreds of ideas here for titles for your blog. Okay. So this is a tool that I use, and I just would pick something out. So for my topic, for my blog title. Couple things about blog titles, things that work really well are blog titles with numbers in them, like 3 ways to. Blog titles with parentheses in them work really well. They have a higher open rate. And blog titles that leave a little bit of sense of mystery. So poking a bit of knowledge, like, are you doing these 3 things? So lavender soap benefits. Are you doing these 3 things? Might be something that you would use for a blog title. And again, you'll get a reference guide that has all of these tools listed. Okay, so we're just going to dive a little bit deeper into search engine optimization, or SEO. Again, for those of you that don't know what that is simply Google giving people the things that they're searching for and you optimizing your content so that it is delivered by Google. Okay, so a few things that are important to know. Every year, Google changes their algorithm around 500 times. There's over 200 pieces of things that there's over 200 things that Google evaluates in their search engine optimization algorithm. And it's all proprietary and super, super secret. But what I will tell you is that Google, Facebook, Bing, Yahoo, whatever, their whole goal is to give the people that are searching content that they want to receive so that people will continue to use them as a search engine. So with that logic in mind, if you just think about your customer, you've got your keywords, you've got your goals for your business and your strategy, right? Now it's time to start thinking about your customer. What's going to make that content appealing to them and for them to continue to stay on your website once they get there? Because the longer that people spend on your website, the more Google will say, oh, people love this stuff, I'm going to send them there more, right? The more times they click through on your website, the more Google's going to think, oh, when people go to this website or this blog, they start to read more and more and more content because the content is relevant and enjoyable to them. So I'm going to send more people to them. So things like that improve your Google ranking, okay? Another tip is make sure your phone, your website is optimized for a phone, because around 60 to 80% of people now are looking at things on their phone, okay, depending upon the demographic that you have for clients. So when viewers linger on your website, it tells Google that they're liking what they see and that Google should keep sending people your way. So do that. Another tool that people use in blogs for search engine optimization is something called backlinks. And what backlinks are links that are within your content and content of other people's that lead them to your website or your blogs. All right. So you may, for example, refer to something on your website that you could link to a blog article in your blog itself, or share your blog content with other people, or your Facebook or your Instagram or LinkedIn that lets people click between the two things. That is called backlinking. So they link back to your website or your blog. Okay. So the way you can do that most commonly is with guest posts or sharing things on your social media. Other important things on your blog content are your meta description. And your meta description is the tag used to describe the content of a web page. And I'm going to give you an example here. So we are going to type in, again, lavender soap. This content right here, Explore Grove's selection of natural soaps. This is your meta description. So every blog or web page that you have has a description that comes up on Google that you can set to let people know what the page is actually about. These should be used meaningfully and ideally not have run-on sentences. So for example, see this one has the this with the dots, it's too long, right? So the click-through rate will be higher with something that's complete as opposed to something that has a run-on here, like where there's this ellipsis, meaning like if you click, you can keep reading. No one's going to do that. Okay, so use your meta description wisely and see how they've put their keywords in their meta description. Okay, that's what a meta description is, by the way. Okay, so they appear with your website or blog title on the URL results of your pages, and they really do have the power to affect click-through rates. And by click-through, I just mean people clicking on them, clicking through to your website or your blog. All right, so here is how to encourage people to click through. Keep it short, between 140 and 160 characters, like a tweet. Okay, so keep it tweet worthy. Target an emotion if possible, because remember, people buy with emotion and not logic. And avoid making your meta description the same on every single page. A lot of people do that. They just pick one meta description and they write the same one. They just copy and paste it onto every page. Vary it up a little bit and make it match your content. Another way is to do image tags, and I've got a blog about that on my blog, and I'll include it in the summary that we send out about how to tag your images for search engine optimization. So between keeping it 140 to 160 characters, make it compelling, and make it include some of your keywords, you should be good to go for your meta description, which is your blog description that happens on your Google page. Okay, we're moving on. Next thing is you have to make it visually appealing. All right, so there's some tools that I recommend. I use them myself and I recommend them. The first one is Canva. And actually I created this presentation in Canva. I'm a web designer. I use Canva exclusively for my work. If I need something done by a graphic designer, I just subcontract them because Canva is there, it's available to me, and it is free. Okay, so in Canva, you can create your blog header and also Pinterest pins for within the blog itself. If you are serious about blogging, you may want to consider having a Pinterest page for your business, because Pinterest is a search engine for bloggers, essentially. Okay, so the size for a blog header is, I like 560 by 345 pixels. The reason I like that is it looks good on a web page, on a tablet, on a phone, and if you share that blog content to social media, it also looks good on them. So it's sort of like you don't have to create different sizes for different things. If you just do that one size, it works for everything. It might not be ideal for everything, but hey, done is better than perfect. And I'm an entrepreneur. I only have time to do one blog post, right? Like one blog asset. So I make one work for everything and it works just fine. So for Pinterest pins, you want more portrait styles. So I do like 1,000 by 1,500. Because Pinterest is on, usually people are looking at it on a phone. And so you want them tall and narrow. Okay. So those are the two sizes. So I will tell you that 99% of the graphics that you see on social media are created in Canva. And so to tell you a little bit about what Canva is, it is a free graphic design platform that you can quickly and easily create everything from your business cards to flyers and social media posts with a drag and drop interface. So if you can do PowerPoint, you can do Canva. Okay, I call it Graphic Designers for Dummies. I'm the dummy, okay? And I use it every day. It's constantly up on my desktop. And like I said, it's free. There is a paid plan. And if you're really serious about Canva and you're using it a lot, you may want to consider the paid plan. The benefit of that is folders. So you can save things into multiple folders with the paid plan, where you can't. With the free plan, I think you're limited to 3 folders. And as you develop your business, if you're doing a lot of the designs yourself, or you have a team doing the designs for you, folder organization does become important over time. And the other thing that I really like about the paid plan is the transparent PNG, where you can make things like your logo transparent. But there's another tool that's out there called remove.bg that can do that for you for free. And I've included it in the summary of assets that we'll talk about. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, we don't have a lot of time. When you're first starting out, time is a little bit more flexible, but as you grow and scale, your time becomes incredibly limited, and you really need to work hard to get the most value out of your time. So when you create this content, I generally recommend that you repurpose it as much as possible. So you create it once and you use it dozens of times, okay, in different ways. And we're going to talk about those. But I'm going to give you a list of 15 ways that you could repurpose your blog, okay? But first of all, what I recommend you do with every single blog post is also send it out as an email and also share it to your social media. 100% of the time. Just make that part of your workflow, okay? That's 3 steps. You create the blog, you repurpose it as an email that goes out to your list, and you post it on social media, okay? So there's 3 easy things where you're just taking the piece of content and using it 3 times very efficiently. So here are many other ways that you can get the most out of your content. In addition to sharing it on social media, you can actually break your blog up and use it as micro content. You can create an infographic from it with a quote. You could add it to an education sequence for your business. You could do a quick video about it. You could offer it as a freebie. Something that you might do after time is you're going to have a lot of blogs that flow together and you can turn them into an ebook. You could share the blog as a guest contribution, or even add it to your frequently asked questions on your website if it's something that you're frequently getting asked about. And I'm jumping around here because these are all things. You could add it to your email signature, a link to your email signature if it's something that you really want to drive people to. And you could use comments from that as inspiration for additional posts, okay? Or even education as part of a course that you're creating, okay? So there's so many ways, and this is just blog content. There's dozens of ways that you can repurpose video content. There's dozens of ways that you can repurpose, honestly, everything that you create. Please do not create things once and then never use them again. One thing that I would like you to do is, as you write blog content, go back and look at your old content and see what performed well. And by that, you'll look at your data and your analytics and pop that back up to the top, refresh it a little bit, give it a new facelift and post it as newer content. I promise you people won't remember. So remember we talked about tools of the trade, and I've showed you some of them. So today I showed you Canva, LSI Graph, I showed you the title generator. And these are some other assets that I recommend that are also free. So Trello, I use Trello to plan out my social media and blog content, and I literally have it listed by month. And if actually you click on this Trello link, it will bring you to a free Trello planning sheet. Trello is just an organization tool like a whiteboard. So if you were to click on this, it'll bring you to a free sheet that you can plan your blogs out for a year. I've included that for you. For a content management system, I like WordPress. A lot of people you'll see them using Shopify, Squarespace, Wix. If you can use WordPress, I strongly recommend it simply because you own the content and it's free. Whereas you'll pay for the others and you won't own your content. Squarespace owns your website if it's on Squarespace. And if you're going to use WordPress, I recommend Astra Theme, which is free, with Elementor Page Builder, which is a drag and drop interface, also free, okay? And again, you can meet with your specialty advisor through the SBDC to get some guidance on these. I'm gonna move on. I know this is a lot of information, but remember you're gonna get it later. Okay, so here are some other tools that are free that I use and love, and I use these on the regular, okay? MailerLite and ConvertKit are email marketing systems that for your first, I think 500 subscribers for ConvertKit and 1,000 for MailerLite, you can use for free. Loom is a screen recording software that you can record your screen for up to 5 minutes for free. Zapier, which rhymes with happier, will send, it's basically an in-between interface. For example, if you create a new contact in Google, it will add it to a spreadsheet. You can actually zap things across and do workflows with Zapier. And I won't get too into that, but that is an asset that works really well for digital automations. Grammarly is a Google plugin that will check your grammar. And you've seen my spelling, people. I write blogs every single week and I run every single one of them through Grammarly, okay? RemoveBG, and these are all clickable links, by the way. RemoveBG is a tool where you can upload a picture of yourself or your logo and make it transparent so you can overlay it on anything that you want. Upwork is a tool that you can find subcontractors to hire at an hourly rate. And Eyedropper tool is a Google Chrome plugin that will pick the colors out of something and let you know what the codes are so that you can use those colors over and over and over again. So I know that there's a lot here, but these are all tools that I use in my small business every day. I use them constantly. They're saved on my desktop and I highly recommend them. And like I said, every single one of these is free. I usually recommend to people do not pay for a digital asset unless you've found no other way to get it, because there are so many resources out there that are low or no cost. Okay, so I talked to you about blogging. Feel free to subscribe to my blog. So every week I send out a tip. It's a 2-minute tip and I create a blog and I send it out in an email. It's a 2-minute tip, like things that you got today, but in micro content for business owners. It's designed for people like you who just really want a no strings attached piece of information. Part of our mission at WanderWeb is to help businesses grow, and this is one of the ways that we do it. We send out a tip every Monday morning to our subscribers that will, if you do that one thing this week, you'll move the needle on your business. So I'm happy to share that with you. Happy to add you to my list. I do not spam I don't sell your emails. It literally is just once a week. I mean, I'm an advisor, a specialty advisor through SBDC. Like I'm not in this for anything other than helping you grow. Okay, so the other thing is, this is how you can get digital marketing advising. So if you need it, go ahead and just go to SBDC's website, SBDC Maine, and request advising. If you don't have a regular advisor, request it through here. If you want a digital marketing advisor, you can just reach out to your advisor directly by email or phone, or however it is that you work with your advisor. So please go ahead and take us up on these resources. We are going to be working with SBDC. There's 2 digital marketing advisors and 1 social media advisor through the end of 2022, I think. So we're here for you. We're offering these services to you at no cost through SBDC. So, and we all the advisors also have their own business. So you do get the benefit of working with an experienced hands-on digital marketing advisor at no cost to you. All right, couple other things that I'm going to share with you. The first one is a blog checklist. Kelsey will send that out. It's all the things that you need to do for your blog to make sure that you haven't missed any of the search engine optimization things. Honestly, we've got enough to remember. Just use the checklist. It's a 2-page checklist. I see you leaning forward and looking at it, Nina. It's only one. You only get half of it there. And let's see. Also, this is the template that I use when I write a blog. So I start off with what's my major call to action going to be, and then I just create the content, and it's sort of the workflow that I use. So you're happy to share that with you as well. So with that in mind, I know there was a lot. I'm really proud of y'all for hanging in there. What questions do you have?
All right. Well, no questions yet, so feel free to plug those in the chat. But everyone is saying thank you. This was wonderful. Business advisors, Tina Adleifson and Chris Cole and I were all commiserating on how much we enjoy your blog. So we can confirm that we are utilizing your blog. And yeah, she did a really good job of explaining how to get access to those specialty advisors. So that contact information to request advising, if you're not already set up with an advisor, will be in my follow-up email. So you don't even have to go to the website. Also, I love that so many of your tools are tools that I use. It's really confirming.
Oh yeah, congratulations, good job.
Felt like I had done something right already. So
I saw you nodding along too. I was like, yes, I got
it. Yep, I've got the eyedropper. I love Canva. Grammarly saves me daily. Yeah. So I cannot recommend them more highly.
Yeah.
Nina has a question. Chris says, Nina, do you want to unmute yourself and take it over?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. This was great. Will you be having any courses on actually how to start the blog and create it? Not all of this, the content, but actually either making a website
step by step.
We had sort of discussed that, but we were concerned that there were so many different platforms that like you'd be locked into whatever one we chose. But you know, I think like if you wanted to reach out and set up an advising session with a marketing specialist, they could go over the different platforms that are available and kind of niche it into an area that fits your needs, and then help from there kind of build it out as an alternative. But we have talked about that. We just weren't really sure how to fit it into one session. It would have to be like a month-long session. Each week we hit a different platform.
You'll find that most digital marketing agencies specialize into a platform. And so my agency is a WordPress specialty agency. And so, and there's a reason I chose WordPress mindfully, because it is a free asset that is scalable and can stay with you throughout your business journey, no matter how big you get. With that said, I know lots of agencies that are Squarespace, right? But I would only provide resources around WordPress simply because that's my specialty.
Okay, thank you.
That's good to know, Corey, in general. So I wonder if the other marketing specialists specialize in a different platform, or if everybody's using WordPress. The main SBDC, we also use WordPress, so that's most of my experience. My personal website is based out of Squarespace, and
Yeah.
it felt like a convenience factor to me, but I agree. I prefer WordPress as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Mary is saying, we are a growth council trying to influence businesses to come to our city. Do you think blogging would be useful? And I would guess yes.
I would say yes, as I wouldn't say it wouldn't be useful if you leverage it as email marketing for sure. And you really focused on blogging as a strategy to show what makes your city special and unique. And maybe feature some events and make it very personal. So I wouldn't make it a municipality type blog. I would make it something that think about who you're trying to get moving to your, who you would like to have moved to your city, and write to appeal to that type of person. And
Yeah.
talk about the events that would appeal to them and things like that.
Exactly. And you were saying like the infographics of like, what are the best parts of owning a business in the city? That kind of stuff. So
Be very targeted. And then use that for email, because email has, we're going to be talking about email coming up in next month. Email has currently a 42 times return on investment for dollars earned over dollars spent.
yeah, and I was trying to look up the date. I believe that it is September 8th. I might be
don't
wrong about that.
remember.
It's loading.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But I'll be
And
teaching that.
It's
And it really is an
the
expansion
7th.
on the
Oh,
things
it's
that we
close.
talked about today.
Yeah, so it's going to build off. It's going to be email marketing, who, what, and why. And that is September 7th at 12 o'clock again. And so a link to register for that will be in my follow-up email as well. And so the idea we were thinking is it would kind of build off of each other. So now that you know how to blog, you can build
Like a
that
boss.
into your email. Yeah, exactly. Michelle is saying, I think in response to Mary's question, kind of like a New York Times travel destination article. Yeah, you want to like make it seem like they're missing out by not being there. We're getting lots of thank yous. We are just over 1 o'clock, so we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us for your lunch hour. Thank you, Corey, as always. Wonderful. And yep, like I said earlier, you will receive a follow-up email from me probably later today that will include a link to the recording and the slides and all of those links that we have referenced. So you'll be able to access all those resources, as well as that button to request advising if you need it. And all the future webinars, everything that we've mentioned, it'll be in that email.
Thank you both again.
We are happy
Thanks,
to help.
everybody. Take care.
Bye.